Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is Rubidium. Today we are talking about autofocus and why autofocus has been slow to be adopted on professional movie sets by professional filmmakers. How is the new dual pixel autofocus from Canon and other autofocus systems different from the video autofocus of the past? What are its limitations and what's the future of autofocus for professional filmmaking? So I've been using dual pixel autofocus on the Canon C100 and then on the Canon C200 for 5-6 years now. There's nothing like it that lets you shoot like we are at f2 and lets you track the face in and out of frame in lots of micro little variations. Lets you keep the subject sharp while keeping the background nice and bokeh out on a low f-stop. Lots of documentary filmmakers use autofocus, probably because they shoot for hours at a time with the same controlled setup, and because they usually don't have the budget for a dedicated focus puller on set as part of the camera team. In the narrative world, in film and television, things are very different. Autofocus is not part of the professional tool set at all. You have a dedicated focus puller, usually pulling focus remotely so that they're not in the way of the camera, and that's their entire job. They're the first AC, the second most important person after the DP or operator, depending if they're the same person. And that person's sole responsibility while the camera is rolling is to keep that camera sharp. Now, there are a couple of reasons that autofocus hasn't been adopted by narrative filmmakers. The first is that it's not perfect and that the system of manually pulling focus as they do now works great. Everyone knows the limitations of it. If you can see in my dual pixel autofocus here, if I were to look down and the camera were to lose the two eyes and a mouth that it needs for autofocus, it's going to start to go soft, hunt around, and default back to the center focus on the camera, which is great. You can mitigate this. You can set the Canons to face only, so it won't change its focal point until it finds another face to focus on. You can also control how quickly or how slowly the camera pulls focus when it finds a new object or between the objects. You can also tap on the screen with the C300 Mark II and the C200 to choose your focal point or which face you want to be on. However, this is not always what you want. It doesn't work every time, and as a result, people are reluctant to leave the dedicated focus puller option and go with some kind of hybrid. And that's a pity, because there are times when autofocus is much better at pulling focus than a human would be, especially at times when an actor is walking towards the camera and there has to be millions of micro adjustments every second, especially if that motion isn't a smooth pull. If it's gradual and starting and stopping, the computer and the camera can do that a lot better than the human eye can, even with marks on the floor and marks on your follow focus. What I've started to see is that focus pullers are occasionally using autofocus on the lenses with capable cameras. And having said that, neither Red nor RE supports autofocus. But on Canon cameras, they're starting to switch between autofocus and manual focus depending on the constraints of the shot. If they're having a hard time keeping something that has a razor thin focal plane in focus, then they're always able to switch over to autofocus for one specific reason. And you have to know what the strengths and weaknesses are and have tested the camera and the lens for that particular scenario, so you have a good idea of how it's going to work. But you still need that person, that first AC on set, whose sole job it is to make sure and monitor the focus of the shot. Just like you would have a dedicated sound recordist, even if you're using, multiple labs and a shotgun, someone has to monitor that audio so that if a police car drives by or a plane goes overhead, it doesn't add interference and you lose an entire take because no one was listening in. A great middle ground is something that Canon calls focus assist. You either put the lens in manual focus or you use their CNE or Sumi-Ray primes that don't have autofocus but have this feature through lens connectivity, and it basically locks onto the person's face and gives you little marks to show whether you're above or below the focus. and you're able to play it almost like a video game where you change your focus to try and get it to turn green, dialing it in exactly. Now you can see how razor thin I'm turning the focus wheel, hundredths of an inch here to try and get this person, get the eye to turn green. But it does track me around the frame, and if there are multiple faces detected, Canon will give you focal marks for all of them. And you're able to use your follow focus to sort of play that game and use the information of the lens to get things sharp and make an informed choice. In summary, I think autofocus is almost there. It's just one generation removed from something that could be used by all filmmakers on set. And it's a really exciting technology that will not necessarily free up a member of the crew to do something else. You'll still need your first AC, but they will have more tools at their disposal and more technologies available to get anything they want in focus as easy as looking at it. Thank you very much for watching. Leave your questions in the comments. I'll link to the products in the description, and I will see you next time.